Now, it is the beginning of April, and under normal circumstances, football followers all over the world, including here in Nigeria, should be enjoying their football. But needless to say, the times are not normal because, of course, we are in a pandemic with COVID-19 on global healthcare systems. Now, the popular English Premier League is on indefinite break, just like its counterparts in major leagues across Europe. And here in Nigeria, the story is even more telling, given the parlous state of the country's sports terrain before this time anyway. Now, for a closer examination of the likely implications of the devastating impacts of coronavirus on also the Nigerian global sports calendar, we're now being joined here on the show by Amaju Pinnick, the president of the Nigeria Football Federation. We also want to find out what he thinks about the Nigerian government's handling of the coronavirus situation thus far. Welcome to the program, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a privilege.
Good morning and welcome to the morning show. Quickly, you've been involved also in public affairs. Let's start by seeking your assessment of what the Nigerian government has done so far, both at the state level and at the federal government level, and whether you think that the response by the Nigerian authorities have been adequate, and also response by individuals and organizations who have expressed commitment to making a contribution to this war against coronavirus in Nigeria.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. And I personally would want to commend the government. They've been amazing, from the beginning, all their strategies have paid off. If you look at what is going on globally, you know that the rise in this pandemic is not as it started, Globally, if you take a comparative analysis, Nigeria has done so well, and all their strategies have paid off. You can see selflessness from the part of the federal government to the state government, Lagos, the FCT, Rivers, Delta, Ogun, all the states, Osun, Oyo, So I think they've done very well, and it's for that reason the World Health Organization has commended them. If you are not in leadership position, you will not understand the kind of pressure or what comes with leadership. It's, but they've been able to manage it very well. They've been able to throw out all their tentacles in ensuring that Nigerians enjoy, to a minimal, to an appreciable extent, that if you look at it, every day now, cases are being discharged, while a few are being added on. Comparatively, in terms of our population, you see that the government has done really, really well. I believe the government should be commended, But after now, I believe it's a time for reflection, Personally, I believe it's a time for us to reflect on things that we know we didn't do right, that we can do right. It's time for, you just pause and meditate. What do you think we are doing that is not right? What do you think we have done? Why do we need to wait for emergency situations, So it's just a time for reflection. Even personally, you have to reflect on your relationship with God. For example, you have to reflect on your relationship with your wife, with your family, with your in-laws. It's just a time, to me, it's a time for reflection. Why, after the pandemic, which definitely by God's grace it will come to pass, you will now know that you chart a new course on what you think is right, is best for you as an individual, is best for you as an organization, is also best for you as a government. It's definitely a time for reflection. And I believe this did not just come for a reason. It came at a time where we need to reflect on a lot of things. But I believe leadership, they've been very, very effective in the control, in Nigeria, in the control of this pandemic. And you can see, the outpour of love from Nigerians, and also the corporates, those that have major interests in the country, even minor interests, they've all come out to see how they can appreciate and be part of this, And I was reading this morning, Femi Otedola, for example, has redeemed his own pledge. He has paid his 1 billion. So also others, So they believe that this is something that can affect everybody. So we must all come out and see how best we can get rid of this pandemic out of the planet Earth, not just Nigeria, because even if you think about Nigeria alone, tomorrow you're still going to open your borders, people are still going to come in. So we must join the global army in ensuring that we work in harmony to get this virus. It's really, really telling. But I said it happens for a reason, Nothing good comes easy, but the truth is, I keep saying in the biblical inscription, Romans 8:28, everything worketh together for good for those that love God. So we don't know why this has happened, but believe me, after this situation, Nigeria will come out a greater country, because I'm a firm believer of this country. I believe that we should all stand united. We should reduce the criticism. You know, the criticism will not take us anywhere. It's purely annihilative. Why we should concentrate on solutions, on how to support the government of the day, on how to correct them. It's not coming publicly to say, oh, you're not doing this. There are so many things that you can do underneath, that you can do beneath, and say, okay, this is how we can do it. We are just looking for solutions, not trying to, like I said, if you are not in leadership position, you will not appreciate leadership. You know, Apadoria, in his book, Politics Among Nations, he said politics is politics. Politics is politics. He could not define it, because when you occupy that leadership position, it's so complicated. It's a complex polity. So how do you start? So you have to look at people around you. You have to reflect on how to approach issues. But give and take, the federal government has been very, very resolute. They've been quite resilient, and they've been quite determined in ensuring that they protect the territorial integrity of this country.
Certainly, Mr. Pinnick, they have, and we can commend our federal governments for their efforts so far. However, let's now start talking about the Nigeria Football Federation. You've spoken about leadership and how you said in your words that if you're not in a leadership position, you know, it's not easy to really appreciate what it takes, etc. And now let's look at how the federal government, for example, is doing their best to cushion the effects on citizens. The NFF, how is the NFF trying to cushion the effects that COVID-19 and the stopping of the league is going to have on our football players? Are any efforts being made right now? Is there anything you can tell us about?
Of course, we are working with stakeholders. And of course, you know, we're also being moderated or regulated by FIFA. You know, so we are taking a care of what FIFA is doing right now in trying to reach out to the global football stakeholders in terms of moderating and seeing how they can, you know, intervene in certain areas. So once that is done, they will come back and look at what we're doing. But what are good or bad news about us is most clubs are owned by government. And this government, because they are in their budget already, and the government is part of the bigger audience in terms of fighting this coronavirus. So our players are still being paid, and most of them, you know, the ones that, even the private club owners, I've spoken to a couple of them, and they've keyed into what we are doing, you know. But let's look at it globally. Let's take it from the EPL. The EPL is one of the biggest and one of the most priceless, I use the word, leagues in the world. Now, on TV revenue alone, they've lost over $800 million, 800 million pounds. La Liga, about 780 million euros. Serie A, about 750 million euros. Now, Bundesliga is engaging their TV rights holders and say, listen, let's negotiate and see what we can do. Why the BeIN Sports and Canal International, these are the two TV rights holders of the Liga, that's the French league, and they've come to tell them that, listen, they are meant to be paying about 200 million euros within the next few days, but they say, listen, we cannot pay because, you know, TV is all about deliverables. What are you delivering? What are we getting? There's no content, so we can't pay, you know. So there is a major minus to world football. Then England, England above board, they are negotiating with the players, take a pay cut of about 30%, which of course will translate to over 500 million pounds. Juventus already is negotiating with his players 70%, you know, so many other clubs. So the truth is 50%, Barcelona 70%. So you see, it's a major minus. Let's talk about the Olympics. Losing $6 billion for moving it from this year to next year, you know. But like I said, it's just a time for us to pause, meditate consciously and reflect. But it is a major, major blow to the sporting industry. Back home, if you look, by now, we're out of started our ITO NFF Cup. We don't know if that can even happen this year again, you know. We don't know when this will end. Even if it's going to be an abridged version, of course, we have to sit with our sponsors. They have the sole right and say, since it's an abridged version, this is what they are going to pay. we have to sit down and negotiate. If possible, it's going to hold. Then also we have a very highly revered and, the ITO NFF Award sponsored by the same company, and now the FIFA president was scheduled to pay a visit to Nigeria for this, the ITO, because we wrote to them requesting the presence of FIFA because we want to celebrate our girls for the first time, the girls that won the 1999, that went all to the quarterfinals of the 1999 World Cup, just a whisker that would have gotten to the semi-finals. So we want to celebrate them. We actually want to celebrate them because female football is a big deal in Nigeria. So we believe this year the ITO NFF Award is all about female football. But we don't know if that will also hold. Even if it will hold, it's going to be quite periphery. It's not going to be as loud as we would have wanted it to be, just to keep our contractual agreement, So it's taking a toll on global sports. And global sports is an integral part of the global ecosystem, So we believe that after this whole impasse, so to speak, we should be able to sit down and take a cue, plan consciously, take a cue from what the government direction, take a cue from FIFA and from CAF, and to our next line of action.
Yes, Amaju Pinnick, I would like to ask you a question about the football community. I know you've done some video and issued statements about COVID-19, but relatively the football community appears to be very silent. And some football fans have expressed concern that we have not heard of anybody in the football community in Nigeria making any contribution or donation to the efforts to check or combat COVID-19. And I've seen one video in particular in which one young man was calling you out that Amaju Pinnick is from a Delta state and is in a position to contribute as much as 1 million naira to support the efforts in Delta state, where, although no case has been reported yet, but the state government is mobilizing in the case of any index case showing up in Delta state. What do you say to that? Is the football community relatively in denial?
Integral part of what is going on. Like I said, we work in, say, calculated ambiguity. We don't want to come out to say what we are doing, but we are doing quite a lot. Like I said, reaching out to the stakeholders. Yeah, personally, I saw the video that you mentioned, there's quite a lot that we have done, but whatever I do, I definitely do not come out to say what personally I've done. There are two things I'm very passionate about in my life. I'm very worry-centric, and I love football. Anything about Warrior or Delta State, I'm quite passionate. We are doing quite a lot. When I mean doing quite a lot, you should know that I have a foundation, the Brown Hill Foundation, and I know how much we've invested, which I do not believe should come out in public. Like I said, we don't come out in public to say what we do, but they are doing quite a lot within the next few days, going around to see how they can cushion the effect of what is going on within some parts of Delta State. And I'm also in some groups that have been going around, even in Lagos, Ikate area, Gungi, Ajegule, and some other areas, trying to reach out. We made a huge contribution. But like I said, it's not for the public. What I try to do very quietly, and on the part of the Nigerian Football Federation, we about a few days ago, the chairman of the strategic committee came up with a strategy for us to see how we can be of help. For example, there was a plan to see how the NFF can partner with some states and see how they can take something of them, for example, feeding some of the health workers, for a couple of days. We don't have that huge funds, but we are thinking of doing that, which of course within the next few days, it will crystallize and see how we can partner. Because listen, the truth is, everybody has to be part of this, because if you want it tomorrow for your business, for your endeavor, you have to be part of it today. That one is certain.
Certainly. Now, you spoke about how this is a time for reflection. So, post-COVID, given this time that we're all going through now, what changes do you think you would like to start implementing within the NFF? Has this pandemic motivated you in any way or made you, think of anything that could, be of more help to our players that you would now like to start seeing within the NFF and implementing within the NFF, if anything?
Yeah, no doubt. Like I said, it's a time for reflection. If after the COVID era and you don't come out with something novel or new, that means you're not part of this planet, you know. So we're definitely going to come up with some new ideas, new direction, new focus. After now, you know, again, we're in touch with all our players. You know, I spoke with the Super Eagles captain 2 days ago, and they have a network where they speak, you know, and they even intend to come back to Nigeria. It's just that they're trying to get clearance. Even on as he called me yesterday, his club gave him a jet to come back. He was asking I could get a landing permit, you know. So also are the other players. The one that we're very concerned about was Collins, who played in Paderborn. About 4 of his teammates were tested positive to COVID-19, you know. But I called him every day until the result came out negative. You know, we spoke, and I speak to practically all the players, you know. And if I don't, I also talk to the coach, and the coach will give me daily reports. We've been we've been monitoring all our players, and we are working to see how we can possibly get them back to Nigeria. Kalu called me yesterday and said he came into Lagos and he's very happy with, you know, with what he has seen, the reaction from the government, that when it was coming, there were a lot of doubts, are you going to Nigeria? But now he has seen that the government has put in a lot of effort in trying to reduce as minimally as possible the COVID-19 pandemic. So we are working with the team, we are working with everybody, and together we'll put our heads together and see how we can right so many wrongs in trying to chart a new direction, chart a new focus, and see how we can build Nigerian football to that stead which we've always craved for.
Well, a question around the Nigerian League. What is the status of the Nigerian Premier League? And what is the status of Gernot Raw's contract? We'd like to know about that. I'm sure that will interest a lot of our viewers. And what do you feel, you as an individual and the NFF as a body, about the fact that if you look at the list that was released recently by Gernot Raw, he seems to prefer foreign-based players to local players, whereas part of his objective should be to use, you know, the opportunity he has been given to help grow home-based players.
Let me take it first from the league. I think we had issues at the beginning, but the league is going on quite well. They just signed a deal with Next TV, which has a platform for them to air some of the games, you know. That's another thing that has been affected. Now it has been stalled. Meanwhile, but you see, like I said, it's been a very tough call. You know what we're going through, but the truth is, we'll build that league to a very formidable empire in the near future, which of course we are doing. We're not just leaving it for the league management. We are working also with the ministry. We are working with all major stakeholders and seeing how we can. And the good news is that the leadership of the LMC, they are very open to all forms of innovation or direction, you know, and they truly and really want the league to have total sanity and stability, whereby the clubs will be, like they've always been, the major beneficiaries. Then coming to Gernot Raw, you know, his list, for example, you know, what we try to do is to who breaks the tape first. Who are the best players? Who are the finest players? You know, whether they are home-based players or they are foreign-based players. I don't like using the word local players. Everybody that knows me about that, you know. But the good news about it is that we have an opportunity of changing things, which is part, as president of Nigerian Football Federation, the chairman of the legal committee, who is the first vice president, no less a personality, Sheikh Kiumi. The only input I have, because he has to go through all our processes, internal processes, from the legal department to the committee, or the legal committee, and possibly we'll also seek an opinion from a legal expert that has, you know, some kind of concerns for coaches' contracts, international coaches' contracts, you know. So we want to be very thorough going forward with Gernot Raw's contract, and I would say within the next 1 week, he should get his contract, and he should study his contract and possibly come back to us, because his contract ends in June. Now, we're not going to say because there is COVID-19 that there's going to be a stalemate. No, there's not going to be a stalemate. So we are working within the time frame of June and see how we can, We also seek the opinion of the ministry and see, it's not just the NFF. Let's look at it because, there are a lot of issues that we believe we need to also trash out, So it should not be surprised that after everything has been done, we also seek the opinion of the ministry because we have a very harmonious working relationship with the Ministry of Youth and Sports. So we also seek their opinion and see how we can move forward with his contract. But give and take, within the next 7 days to 10 days, he should have his contract, he should study it, then come back to us. But what I know that I've insisted, one, he must live in Nigeria. Anywhere of his choice. If he wants to live in Warri, so be it. If he wants to live in Dara, if he wants to live in Lagos, anywhere of his choice, he should live in Nigeria. He can travel 3 times a week. He can bring in his wife, and so many other things. The reason why he needs to live in Nigeria is to go around the leagues and see how we can nurture some of these players, and take them. So it's not just and make them part of the team, because you shouldn't be relying on secondary, participants in that regard. You should directly go to and watch games. I've watched a couple of games. I've seen some very wonderful players. So I believe he can do that. So a major thing that I've insisted that he must live in Nigeria. 2 of us occasionally will go watch some games. He can take notes and see how we can. He's not just taking the players and bringing them to the national team. He's taking the players and see how he can help them achieve their dream of playing internationally. So those are some of the things that. Another thing that he must do is we're not going to be paying, which I told them clearly is his salary is going to be in Naira. That one is certain. We have to do everything humanly and materially possible in encouraging our currency. So he has to be paid in Naira, whatever is the equivalent in dollars, but he has to be paid. Just some few things, If he's able to accept that, then we have a deal, But if he's not, there's nobody that isn't disposable. There are a lot of coaches out there that want to coach Nigeria. A lot of coaches out there. I get calls every day. One of coaches that wants to come. But we believe he has done so well. We believe we can maintain this momentum. We can maintain this relationship. And we believe with the crop of players we have, young, dynamic, and elementally very disciplined. Very, very disciplined players. I think this is the first time since I've been following Super Eagles right from when I was age 12 till date. I've not seen any Super Eagles that has been this disciplined like this current Super Eagles. And discipline is the bedrock of any success, any successful organization, or polity. So we believe they can do very, very well in the next Nations Cup. And we also believe they can do very well in the next qualifying for the World Cup and even in the World Cup proper. So we want to maintain this harmony, we want to maintain this relationship. But the only thing that can impede it is if, for example, he refuses some of our new clauses in the contract.
Well, certainly, I think a lot of Nigerians will be happy to hear that you've insisted on the things that you have, especially him having to live in Nigeria. And speaking of homegrown football, I'd like to get an update on a particular situation. Earlier on in March, there was a tragic death of a Nasarawa FC player, Chijioke Martins, who slumped. And there was supposed to be a 12-man panel that the NFF had set up to investigate the medical, security, and also administrative lapses that occurred that led to his unfortunate death. Is there any update with regards to this? Has anything really been investigated? And is there anything that you would like to tell the public about that particular situation?
Yeah, the committee did an amazing job. The committee was inaugurated in Benin, and they spent 3 days in Benin, And the committee, of course, is peopled by technocrats and very critical stakeholders, like Amaju Pinnick, who was the vice president of the CAF Appeals Board for 11 years, headed by Dr. Peter Singabele, who is a member of the medical committee of CAF, and a former NFF executive committee member, Abayola, veteran sports administrator, Tade Aziz. I can go on and on, So these are people that are no nonsense. You cannot tell them what to do. You can only provide the enabling environment for them. And they did a very thorough job. Even in the midst of the pandemic, they flew to Abuja, had a meeting in Abuja, and from Abuja they went to Nasarawa. They spent a couple of days in Nasarawa, but they did everything, met the family of the disease. I also spoke with the family of the disease. The only thing right now that is affecting their report is the autopsy, which the family vehemently refused, that the boy shouldn't be touched, So we're surprised because globally, if you have a situation like that, you also need the autopsy so that it can be as a corrective measure in future. But the family vehemently opposed, that we cannot. It's a family. They own their body, the corpse, But unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. But their report is very, very thorough, and we had to get in touch with the Honourable Minister to enlist his support and say, for example, if the federal government is partially shutting down, I don't see any reason why we should, because the report was meant to be submitted to me, then I submit to the Honorable Minister, and he granted my request, because at that point, they've told a lot of workers, especially civil servants, not to come to work. So that's why they didn't submit their report. Their report is 100% ready, less the autopsy report, which we do not have control over. But beyond that, I believe they've done a very thorough job. And like I said, we're not just going to throw that report under the carpet, because even the ministry is very interested about it, So, and even before now, just when it happened, we've already started acting, making sure that they have life-saving, ambulances in all the stadia, and not just the stadia, even the medical centers in the stadia are also fairly well equipped. And that they've done, I want to make sure they practice that religiously to the end of the league and the future of other leagues as well.
Well, we have just about a minute or less to go. But recently, FIFA held a meeting via video conferencing with the ECA and also with FIFPro. And the agreement was that players should be prepared to take pay cuts. Now, the Premier League in the UK has already adopted that. What's your take on that? Do you think that this could have implications for the sanctity of contracts, or it could end up discouraging players who may not want to necessarily make any sacrifice because of COVID-19?
Players should understand that the major driver of any football activity is their TV rights. Once you are not on TV, what do you derive? They should also understand, for FIFA to intervene, they should know that it has become very critical. Because in football, especially global football, it's like pay as you go. Because if you don't get paid from your TV right holders, how do you pay the players? Even the match day hospitality, the match day ticket, I know at a point, Arsenal was making about $4 million in every match day situation. From there they will have said X, Y, Z. But now it cannot happen. Even at the point they will agree that we don't want, let it be an empty stadium. So let us take advantage or leverage on the TV rights. But then it's not going to. So the players should also understand that this is being done because of them. And if you look at it, it's what's called a force majeure. Force majeure is not only on the pitch, it can also happen off the pitch. Force majeure are those situations you cannot predict. You see, I can say, for example, I was in my church, Ikoyi Baptist Church, when we're going from 2020, 2021, 2019 to 2020.
Nobody saw this coming.
Nobody saw this coming. We would have prayed against the coronavirus. So nobody, when we're doing the Passover night, I think nobody would have prayed against coronavirus coming to Nigeria. Obviously, because it is a situation that is unforeseen. So I don't see any reason why the players should not have the understanding that this is done because of them and abide by that simple principle of force majeure.
Thank you very much, Amaju Pinnick. Thank you very much for joining us this morning on The Morning Show.